Energy reality, one of my favorite subjects. And this is not nearly enough people understand energy reality. But right now, energy reality is slapping Europe hard in the face. So, while the common citizens are taking the brunt of this energy reality check, the decision makers still seem to be blinded by ideology and living in an alternative universe where fossil fuels aren't needed. The excuses are coming in fast and furious. Green energy apologists are blaming the pandemic, supply issues, and of course the war in Ukraine for their energy crisis. The problem is the crisis was pending well before any of these events ever happened. So I'm going to pick on Germany, as they've been the national poster child for green energy. Germany committed an insane amount of money and set impossible emission reduction targets, and then started legislating their existing energy generation systems out of existence, including coal and inexplicably nuclear. They've called this initiative, and I might be mispronouncing it, I'm sure Derek will correct me later, Energy Wind, and it was the biggest political project since the reunification of the country. It's huge, and the initiative has been a catastrophe. The Energy Wind is costing Germany right now about $36 billion a year, and they've been at it for decades as money's poured into renewables like biomass, wind, and solar. And they slowed their growth in emissions a bit, but it hasn't even dropped. There's no way Germany's going to come even close to their targets. And Der Spiegel cited a recent estimate it's going to cost $3.8 trillion for Germany to meet their energy goals. $3.8 trillion. Think about that. That's $3,800 billion. It's not going to happen. They're not going to come up with that money, and they're not going to reach those goals. Now, while they're shutting down their own energy sources, Germany, of course, was filling their void with the increasing dependence on Russian natural gas imports. That way they could claim fantastic numbers on their domestic energy sources while forgetting to mention the impact on their imported sources. It was a shell game. Germany, now, they're desperate. They're firing up their coal generation plants and reopening coal mines as they're facing a winter supply crunch, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble. They still won't consider, though, keeping their remaining 3 nuclear plants operating for fear of angering their Green Party. Ideology is putting citizens at risk for the winter. Germany's not alone. They're just the worst example of the bunch. Pretty much all of Europe is facing an energy crisis, and much of it's due to their focus on unrealistic green dreams while shunning efficient conventional sources of energy. The EU is now proposing to somehow force their 27 member states to reduce natural gas consumption by 15%, starting on August 1st. They're going to enforce it. How? I don't know. It's doubtful that many nations can or will meet those reductions as winter looms. Natural gas in much of Europe is a need, not a luxury. If the EU starts penalizing nations for non-compliance, this could actually lead to a shattering of the EU itself. A 15% reduction in natural gas use, it will economically castrate the EU. Energy-intensive industries are going to be forced to cut production, leading to layoffs and inflation as supply chains for consumer goods are screwed with even more than they've already been. Meanwhile, the citizens, well, they're going to be shivering and rather upset. The crisis looming for Europe this winter is unavoidable. There's little that can be done in the short term, and people are going to suffer dearly. There's no getting around that. In the long term, though, we can fix this issue. The world needs to rein in their ideologically insane leaders. Justin Trudeau, speaking of which, his government's still obsessed with shutting down conventional energy development. He's attacking Canada's oil. New emission caps are being proposed that will harm and chill investment into Canada's already battered and beaten energy sector. Canada should be ramping up production and fast-tracking pipelines along with LNG terminals in order to feed the world because they're desperate for our energy. Instead, we're shutting in some of the most abundant energy reserves on Earth. Meanwhile, we got Joe Biden groveling and begging for more oil from Saudi Arabia while he refuses to entertain new pipelines from Canada or expanding exploration in Alaska. You know who's smiling? Putin. He's smiling as Europe keeps paying a premium for Russian gas. He holds them by the balls, and he increases exports to China and India. The day may come when renewables become a viable alternative to hydrocarbon-based energy, but it's clear that that day is still far away. The mad rush to shut down oil and gas is causing world suffering. Of course, the elites in power don't understand, or they don't care. In Trudeau's case, it's both. He's never had to struggle to pay a utility bill, nor have most of the people in the halls of power around the world. So strap in, kids. The world's in for a rough energy ride as energy reality slams nations, especially winter ones, this year. The protests seen around the world in the last year are going to be nothing compared to those that come. Because when people can't heat their homes or feed their families, nothing else matters. Being chided for their energy use by vacuous leaders such as Justin Trudeau is only going to inflame them. Desperate times are going to lead to desperate measures. We can't pretend we didn't see it coming, guys. The green dreams failed.